Hi everyone, thanks for joining me today. If you are new to my channel, Influence Colorist, thanks for stopping by. I try to concentrate my videos on what inspires me or has an influence on my coloring pages. It could be supplies I've seen another colorist use, or it could be just something that's around me. And with showing you my inspiration, I hope it will inspire you in your coloring journey. Sometimes things work out and sometimes not so much, but that's all part of the creative process. So a few months ago, I finally broke down and purchased the Serene coloring book by Nicholas F. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce that. He also goes on Instagram by Nick Filbert, so much easier to pronounce. I have seen many pages on Instagram and on social media done by different colorists, and I mean the imaging is just amazing, and what people have done in some of these pictures just blows my mind. So this book's always been well, one, expensive, but two, just a little intimidating for me. So I was excited to get it just to have it in my collection. But yeah, the images are so beautiful and you just want to color them. All right, so my Friday inspiration is going to come from the beach and ocean. So being that it's summer, I tend to gravitate towards those themes. I love going to the beach and ocean, and yeah, I used to decorate in my house a lot of ocean theme. Now it's kind of more like Southwest style, ranch style, I guess, but I still have a love for the beach and ocean. So going through the pages, there seems to be a lot that have some water themes to it, but I did pick this one. This one seemed a little less intimidating than some other ones. Let's see, there was one that I kind of considered doing. I loved the whale, and yeah, the octopus on her head, but there seemed like a lot going on. So for my first page in the book, I decided to do this one. Images are a little bit bigger here. So I looked through a bunch of ocean and beach color palettes, and I was drawn to two very different ones, and I'll put those up here on the screen. All right, so this palette is what I would call coastal, very calm and serene tones, and this one is definitely more bright, vibrant, warmer shades. I think more of like coral reef colors for this one. Now, I normally just pick one color palette, and especially because there's a lot going on in here, and so when you keep things minimal, then it tends to be a little bit more cohesive. But because these are two of my inspiration, I'm gonna go for it. So welcome to my mind. I have no idea if these will work well together with color harmony or if it will look too busy, but again, we're gonna try this out. These are one-sided pages somewhat. As you can see on the back, it has the title of the illustration and then just some copyright information. So I went ahead and color matched my markers. I am going to use alcohol markers, some color pencils, and probably some pan pastels on the skin. Yeah, so I went ahead, matched all my colors to those color palettes, picking some lights and in with the markers, and then some darker shades for color pencil shading. Okay. I feel my biggest challenge is going to be how much of each color palette do I use on the page? You know, do I balance it by trying to use both palettes evenly, or do I concentrate on one color palette and just kind of adding pops of colors from the other color palette? So yeah, that is kind of my thought process on what I'm going to do. I've seen Dee Dee Willingham do one page in here, and she works with a very minimal color palette. And so she'll pick one color and just kind of place that color around and kind of balance it out, and then go to the next color and do that. So that might be something that I think about doing for this too. So with my videos, I do a mix of real-time coloring, speed coloring, and coloring off camera when it gets too repetitive. But don't worry, I try to explain techniques or my thought process throughout the video. And you will always see a finished page at the end. All right, so let's get started. All right, so looking at this and the color palette, I do think I want to do her hair, the little star top here, and part of her jewelry, this necklace part, in these like golden tones. So I'm going to start with my lightest one and just kind of do a base layer of that lightest one first. All right, so that's all the gold base I'm gonna put down first. I wanna start kind of laying out some other colors, and then if I need to add more, then I'll do that. So next color I'm going to concentrate on is this kind of lighter teal color. And yeah, I'm picturing, obviously she's in water, so all these like swirly bits remind me of like water. And I know it's not water, I know it's like corals and like little plants and stuff, but the movement of it to me reminds me of water. So that was why I picked this kind of bluish or teal shade for these shapes. Now I might not do all of them, like some of these bigger ones, I might hold off on those to see if I want to do those a different color. But all the ones that have these like little leaves around here and these smaller ones are going to be in this color. Again, just doing a base. Okay, so here is that teal color done. I kind of picked out anything that looked like a leaf and some of these smaller coral branches here. So I am gonna add some more of the gold shade now. I think I'm gonna do it in these little longer oval shapes. I may even do these like tubular shaped corals here, because that will help break up some of the more red corals that I'll have in this area. Okay, now I'm going to add some of this blue in here. So the one in the color palette was something along the lines of this darker shade. So I want to start with a lighter one. So I'm going to do, this is a Ohuhu water-based marker. So it's this one right here. And that way I can build up to that color. So I think I'm going to add it in this shell area here. It looks like she's kind of sitting in like a little clamshell maybe. And I don't know, this might be part of it. I'm going to include it in that. And then also these like feathery looking shapes up here. All right, and then next I'm gonna be adding this orange color. And I'm picking out some of this coral up here, a little bit here, and in through here. Okay, staying with some of the coral colors now, I'm gonna do these, this one. So I'm gonna start with this lighter one. Okay, I'm gonna move now to this color right here, because I can always darken it up with the color pencil. So again, another base layer, and now I'm just trying to balance some stuff. Again, I don't know, some of these little areas I'm not sure what I want to be, and then there's also some of these bigger tubular shapes. I'm not sure what I want those to be too. I also have these little half circle shapes too, so I'm just gonna kind of start in one area and then see where I end up with this color. All right, and then last color combination is going to be these. So I'm going to start with that lightest one. All right, now I'm just gonna start shading some different areas. So yeah, I'll just be using some darker colors and here and there, and probably some color pencils too. Okay, to give a little bit more contrast and depth in the hair, I'm going to take this umber color. It's kind of a medium umber color, and just working into these shadow areas. This will just help with that contrast to give it more depth. All right, and then highlighting with this yellow shade just to kind of emphasize that natural kind of lighter golden yellow, more concentrating in the middle section. So if you can see, like, the top and the bottom part of that little section is dark, and then it gets lighter in the middle. So that's basically all you need to do, is try to figure out where your highlights are going to be and the dark shadow areas. And a good place to figure that out is how the line art is made. Okay, so I went ahead and did some shading, mostly color pencil shading on this side. A little bit of markers. I shaded with markers too with some of these darker colors. But for the most part, it's color pencils. And that way you can see the difference between this side and this side. This side's gonna have more depth, and this side's gonna be a little bit flatter. Okay, so I'll go through a couple of these areas to show you how I shaded, and then I'll come back to you. So mostly going through where it shows the little lines are, that's where I know I need to shade. And I can always come and soften this hard shade line with a color pencil. That's about the same color as the shadow I'm trying to create. And I can start with heavy pressure and then work up to lighter pressure, just so it blends it in a little bit better. And that way you don't get such a hard line with the marker. Okay, so that's how I did that color. And let's go ahead and do this part right here. So I'm gonna take, let's see, and I'm using Polychromos here. So again, hard pressure on where these lines are. And as I'm working it to the middle, then I just kind of lighten the pressure. So just the very kind of top part here is the lightest. That lighter shade is still peeking through. All right, and then I'll go back and hit it with a lighter shade just to kind of help blend that a little bit. And then if I really want to kind of highlight this area, I can hit it with a little bit of yellow just to give it a little bit more highlight. All right, and then I'll do the lighter peach. So this is 131, so just darker than that shade. And again, I'm pressing kind of hard on these lined areas. And as it's going towards the center, I just lighten the pressure. All right, on to the blue. So as you can see, I did the darker blue marker along through here. So now I'm just gonna take a color pencil and try to help create a not such of a stark line between the light and the dark. So again, starting heavy pressure and then lightening the pressure just to kind of help soften that hard edge there. All right, and then for the blue, I'm gonna take the darkest blue color pencil, and this is Polychromos 246. And again, starting where the line indicates, where the shadows are gonna be, and just following that. Lighten the pressure as it goes out. All right, now I'm taking kind of the medium blue and just going over that dark area, bringing it more into the center, and then taking the lighter blue, this is the water-based marker, and going over with that. Now, it looks dark, but once it starts drying, then it will lighten up. And then I can always go back and darken up those shadows. So same technique here, although I'm going to be using a little bit more of a flicking technique, feathering it out. So starting at the bottom or the base of that feather-like shape, and then kind of flicking it up, almost like when you're creating hair strands. All right, and then that's the medium blue, going over that, bringing in a little bit more, and then the water brush. All right, so I'll go ahead and finish up these other sections and the parts of her hair, but same kind of coloring technique. Let me show you the pink here. So I just took the red. So the pink is the lightest of this 3 of the colors. So I'm going to keep the middle the lightest. Kind of, again, flick this color up, leaving the middle untouched. All right, and then the middle shade is this one, RB 320. So same thing, flicking it over, bringing it into the middle a little bit more. Just so we look like we have a nice bright shine right there in the middle. All right, and then let's see, the lightest shade. Blend those. And if that's still too harsh, then you can always go over it with a color pencil. That way you can help blend it a little bit more. I'm just going right over that lightest part, keeping kind of a medium to light pressure on the color pencil. So it's still picking up the lightest part, but it's blending it so it's not so harsh. Okay, so now I'll go ahead, turn the camera off, and finish everything up. Okay, so here is the finished marker and color pencil. And now I'm going to do her skin tone, and I'm going to be using chalk pastels. I'm going to use a combination of this one, which is red iron oxide tint, and a little bit of white. And depending on if I'm doing shadows, I might use this shade too to add in. This is burnt sienna. Okay, and I do have a little sponge here that I use to mix up the colors. I apologize for the video quality. I'm not sure why the video keeps turning to like a warm and cool shade. So I'll have to play around with that in settings. Okay, so I'm gonna do a couple different types of shading. I'm gonna use a gray, kind of a neutral gray, and this is a little bit transparent too, with the alcohol marker. So I'm just gonna be adding that in some areas that you might see like a drop shadow on. And then for the skin, I'm gonna be shading with, let's see, this is 189 Polychromos, just to darken up the shadow, give it a little bit more contrast. Okay, I'm adding a little bit of color to her lips. This is just a kind of medium shade of pink, and blending it out with that more peach skin tone shade. Adding a little bit darker in the creases and in those heavier lined areas. Just going back and forth, blending those out. I use the white just to kind of help still maintain that highlight if I notice that it's getting covered up. A really light shade of purple works well to shadow the eyeballs. All right, I'm gonna add a little color to her cheeks too. And first I grabbed a color pencil, but I think that's gonna be too harsh. So I'm gonna add, this is a Pit Pastel, which is like a chalk pastel, but in pencil form. And I'm just lightly rubbing where I want the color and then blending it with that soft tool. All right, so here is pretty much everything done. I didn't do any of the bubbles. I added a little white posca to the eyes, and highlight some of the shiny stuff. I am going to try to do a background. So I've been trying to figure out what I want to do for the background. I think I'm going to use pan pastels because I feel like I can control the colors a little bit better. And if all else fails, then I can do a lot of heavy erasing. If I don't like it, it won't go back to white, but I can also paint it black or paint it white. So yeah, we're just gonna see what happens. So I'm gonna be using some different blues and greens, maybe a little bit of black. And my thought process is I'm trying to get water movement to look like it's starting here and going out. So I'm gonna be using the soft tool here too, and I'm just gonna be doing some kind of wiggly, jittery movements to create some movement in that pastel. So we'll see. I'm gonna try to start kind of dark and work up to light. I'm hoping that it doesn't take away from all the bright blue here. So yeah, okay, we'll just see what happens. All right, so I'm happy with that. You can still see the teal, which I was worried that kind of would blend away and kind of take away from the blues in here. But overall, I think it looks good. It has some nice water movement going on. I do want to add the bubbles, and as you probably noticed, I went kind of over some of the pencil lines, and that is fine because you can always take an eraser, like a kneadable eraser, isn't going to be as aggressive as, say, the electric eraser that might take off some of the colored pencils. So here I just kind of just drag it on anywhere that I might have gotten some of that pan pastel. So yeah, I just kind of rub it around. And you can always tap it if there's some stubborn areas, but usually just kind of rubbing it over the top takes it off. All right, so now I am going to take the electric eraser and I'm going to be making bubbles with this. So here I can kind of control where I want the bubbles, and they're going to be kind of light enough. And then I can go in with a posca or maybe some sparkly stuff and add more bubbles. All right, so now I'll come in with a posca, and I think I'm just gonna outline these bubbles here. Take away that black line. Fill in just a little bit. All right, so I whited out the bubbles and then I added some gel pen, some pink and green inside those bubbles. All right, this is a Zig Wink of Stella, and it is like a gold, clear, shimmery water brush. So you use it just like you were using a water brush, squeeze the base just a little bit to activate or to get the water flowing, and then brush it on. So it's very sparkly, gold, kind of metallic. So I'm going to use it in her like eyeshadow and then in some of the streaks of her hair and a little bit in the jewelry. Okay, my first page in Serene is complete and I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I thought when I first started laying down the colors that it was going to lean more towards that coastal color palette, but it actually is a good balance of both of the palettes, and I think they work well together. I'm happy with the way the background turned out. It's soft and subtle enough that it doesn't take anything away from the main image, and it does have that watery movement that I was hoping for. Adding little touches like the shimmer in the hair and in the jewelry, white posca highlights, and some different bubbles here up more towards the foreground, I think really finishes it off nicely. All right, thanks everyone for watching. Please like and subscribe and leave a comment if you wish. It's fun connecting with you all. Bye.